All right, here we go again. Buckle up. So that whole thing is pretty weird. Now, if you were some professional hitters and you were trying to put disinformation out there, because essentially professional hitters won't move on a hit unless they believe they'll get away with it. So you start putting information out there to see if you can steer the belief that it's going to come from certain entities that you might be able to frame for the murder also. Again, LAPD could be part of it, a big part. Probably get promoted for it. Right. So, because if they offer too much, somebody might try it or do it, and then they won't get to do it. They won't make their money. So if they make their if they offer $20,000, $30,000, they might actually somebody might actually do it. Right. 2 and 10. I mean, you're talking about life in prison, or actually death penalty. Actually do it, or a minimum of life. Now you may get somebody crazy to do it, but it seems like it's too low. Like they don't want people to do it. So why would they do that? Because there's a professional hit person out there that's going to get 50 or 1,000 or 100,000 for it, right? Or maybe even more. I mean, the cartels, money means nothing. That's why they're so successful. That's why they can pay off cops. I guarantee their transportation system includes cops that you never thought would be involved. Right? Could be like the sheriff of some freaking backwoods community, right? Where they have, like farms and, immigrant labor in the middle of Indiana, Trump country. Yeah, and you pull into the sheriff's county and he's got, you know, uh, semi trailers with the word Trump and Vance on the side. See, that's the scam. They're not really Trump and Vance people, but that's their game. That's their scam. Yeah, $210,000. Yeah, actually, there's a cartel boss in there, somebody, lieutenant or something. And he's like, no self-respecting cartel would 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 put such a low offer. Right. I believe it came in, and I believe it's linked to something, somebody. I mean, it could work for freaking some spy spy hitters, right? They sit across from you the table and eat breakfast while they're jumping, while they're part of something that's going to kill you. They're going to get paid 50 grand for it or 100 grand. Right? And while they sit across the table from people offer them, $2,000 just to stare at the guy all day or the gal all day. Right? See, here's what they're doing to people like that guy that just got charged because he got drunk and went against cops. This is what they do to their mind and then get them all drunk and maybe even drugged up. Right. I'm sure there was a psychological hit on that person. And of course, there's spells and stuff too. They probably knew they know the identities before they release the identity. So again, Why did they release the identity? Because they believe they're getting close on the hit. And then it could be anybody, right? Spies could keep everybody's identities hidden. Right? There's something going on. Again, nobody's going to help somebody who the thing being the organization that runs the deep state, says don't help. And that includes ICE agents, because that's where the money's coming in. Hits on ICE officers. Identities are ICE officers and Border Patrol. Well, your lives, they want to ruin your lives. Professional hitters will just go in the back, like they did with Rose McGowan in the background. Represent themselves as somebody, I'm going to do a book on you or whatever it is. Right. Somebody might want to talk to Bavino about a book deal. Right. And then it's the assassins trying to get as much information as they can. Yeah. What you read in the news is bullshit from one end to the other. I mean, some of it, yeah. But again, it's the idea that I allow them, as a spy entity, I would allow them to investigate, over the line, 10% of the time, to make them feel like they're actually doing something. Right. And only where I would let them do it. Right. And that, that's how they say the system's credible, because look over here, we did this, so of course we're actually doing, law enforcement the correct way. So for that many cops to be that corrupt, it requires the system to show how they have the cover story, quote unquote. So what they want right now, because they're trying to recruit people here, is for me to say it's somebody specific, right? So that the other people would feel comfortable, right? And then of course they want me to say it's missing exploited, but of course it is. There's no way that it's not. Okay. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that they're everywhere, right? And where they're not, they'll get there in a second, because there's crooked people everywhere. Right. It has to include the billionaires somehow. Otherwise, it would be fought, and somebody would fight it. Right. That much money, you could fight it. But then, of course, that much money, they are it probably. Right. They didn't make the money. The deep state made them the money. Right. They're propped up. They're just a face. So probably they're trying to start an alternative narrative on who it could be that would kill these people. And if they get it far enough, then the heavy hitters will do it, because they'll hide. And if they can set them up to make them look like, they'll have, maybe 4 street thugs start gaining identities, or identities, doxing information. Things like that. That's a big one. It's a big case, but again, it's a politically charged case, and Trump is this, again, by default. They're the Trump soldiers, so we knock them off. And again, there's also people that want that out. They may not really care if they're killed or not. They just want people out there actively trying to do it, to try to influence. whoever it is they're trying to influence. Threat of death is something they kind of overrate, but people that are going to do it are going to do it, whether you do the death threat or not. But the death threat sometimes gives them an out to say, okay, now I'll be corrupt because there's death. So, closer to the move in. I'm not under some illusion that nobody would be hired or nobody could move in around me. It's just a better place to be. Not the same as doing it like right here in this. Again, there's several, or there's a couple entrances into where I'm going to live, but there's a ton of open space around where I live where you could hide a camera, law enforcement can hide a camera. They kind of moved me into a place with a breezeway, which was a bad move for me. But they blocked my move so long that I just jumped at the first place I could get into. It seemed acceptable. It was probably already set up. I believe the one neighbor was definitely one of them. Could have been more. Again, the idea is that they want you to believe the other neighbors are the person. Right? Again, in law enforcement, that has a legitimate purpose, but they took that and they turned it into criminal purpose. Right? That's what they do as a deep state is. But again, I don't even know how you can come up with that. Somebody's scumbagging the operation. But as far as air traffic controllers, you're offering $40,000-$50,000 to ICE people, and air traffic controllers like this. I mean, as far as each individual is concerned, is a higher. Like you ever play Stratego? Yeah. It's like a colonel versus a sergeant. Right. There's no way that bonus should be that small. Right. Should even look at increasing salaries, or again, bonus salary. The cost, not, location salaries. Right. My idea is that you just don't have enough people in those areas. I mean, that's the whole problem. So when you don't have enough people, you have less people because nobody wants to work into those conditions. So you should have extra people in the tower in those places, and then nobody will quit there. It'll be like, oh, this is like just like every other place because it's me, this other person, and then there's this floater that's around us all day. Right? There should be floaters, all sorts. That's where you went wrong because you tried to do it on the cheap, and now who's doing that? I don't know. Hmm. But you're watching $40,000-$50,000 for ICE officers, and you offer like nothing for a traffic controller. In fact, the traffic controller should actually be a higher bonus, right? And that's coming from ICE itself. But again, they have a pretty high bonus. So. It makes no sense. Makes no freaking sense. Well, because they're not going to be a freaking air driver. They're going to be an ICE employee. make more money. Hmm. You should match the bonus. Right. I agree. I mean, if I was younger, I'd probably be all into it. Air traffic control. I mean, not my thing, but I know how the mind works on stuff like that, and how my mind works. I'd be like, multitask. You have to find multitaskers. That's who what you need. Well, what happens in the mind is in the brain, wherever you want to call it, is your mind can operate both things at the same time. So what happens is you have one operation, you put that on hold for like a split second or 2 seconds, and then your mind does the other operation. It goes back and forth. So you need multitaskers. Right? And there's ways to train and empower multitasking. It's worth probably $10,000 consulting fee just to tell you that. Probably more than that. So you got to find multitaskers, and then it won't bother them because they live to multitask. Right. Yeah, if I'd have known it was like this out here, I'd have come out here because you only find like Pittsburgh is in hill country, but it's not like in the middle of nowhere. Most times when you're in hill country like this, it's the middle of nowhere, which it may have been better for me anyway. But right, thank you. No, there's no reason that this area hasn't developed more than it has, and I do see it's developing. I got in at the kind of at the ground floor of the push and the move. But like I said, that one streets like that, whatever it was up there off of the highway, Flint Highway. You have to improve those because they're starting to back up, and you're sitting on this incline, and when you get to the front, you're like, well, where do I stop? That's the first part of an intersection, right? Well, there's a crosswalk, but I would tell you first off, the crosswalk is too far forward, and that's not what a crosswalk is for. And it's kind of faded crosswalk on top of it. So you want to get your white lines across where you want people to stop at those intersections. And you have to do it scientifically because where the crosswalk is actually too far. When people turn, they cut it tighter. What I would also do is I would look into carving into the hillsides. They're not real big hills, but just because it goes up on the sides. That's what makes it a technical intersection. Is when you come up out of that low area and hit that highway, you're on an incline, and then to the right and to the left of you is high ground. So you kind of have to pull forward to make that turn. Right. So that's where the second lane comes in because the first lane is going to stop earlier, and you're not going to see left and right too well. The lane to the right, the turning lane, is going to stop further, but then that allows that's further to the right, and then people turning won't won't be impacted by that. That line will be further up, so you can see left and right. And then again, you do want to trim that. So putting an extra lane into the right at least would help with that. You might want to do it on the other side too. There were some properties there. I think they're businesses, and I think it wouldn't take that much. I don't think it's impossible without not really impacting them. I have to go through the intersection again. Maybe I'll do it today. Right. I guess I'll do it next week. Right. You already have traffic on that road, and somebody could actually sit there through two light cycles. So again, that's part of developing it. It doesn't make any sense if Pittsburgh wasn't developed past where it was. It may be again, could be a mob type of hold on things. secret society and says no development kind of deal. But you're obviously now picking up there, which will be good. Money will be put into the area. So I would say for retirement, it's probably a great retirement home location, and I'm sure it's being used for that, but it's kind of like a hidden kind of thing. Now, what happens is once you develop it, and this is another reason why they may not allow to develop it, just saying we don't want our prices to go out of people's reach, where people just come in and buy up all our land and houses. Right. Which is probably where it almost is now. Right. No, if you're a retiree, that's some beautiful. And I mean, people have this is like if you wanted a house with a view, this is where you move. The Pittsburgh metropolitan area has houses and land with views everywhere. It's probably already kind of bought up. So you got a really nice view. You just buy a 4x4 for the winter. So again, just have a SUV or something with a 4x4.